What's up, physios? I have on the podcast today the amazing Alex and Will. First of all, welcome to the podcast, guys. I don't know if you ever watched the show Community, but you guys kind of remind me of like Troy and Abed on that show, because you are like the ultimate tag team. I mean, let's just go over like your accolades right now. First of all, you run the healthcare digital marketing group on Facebook, which is now 3,061 members strong as of today's interview. Will, you have 2 podcasts, the Breaking Student Debt podcast and the Nobody's podcast. And Alex, you have the Healthy Funnel podcast. And you guys are currently doing a course together that you are selling to physical therapists called Launch Code. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So first of all, welcome, guys.
Jared, thank you so much for having us on here, man. This is such an honor.
My pleasure. And also, I should mention that you guys were my coach for a while, which was tremendously helpful when I was in a super stuck place. So I'll be your number one testimonial that you guys got me through, like when I was transitioning and I was trying to essentially get to the point where I was really focusing on developing an online presence. Mm-hmm. I was really effing confused about Facebook and how it works and the whole thing. And I don't remember whether it was Alex or Will. One of you guys shared with me the most important piece of information about how to market and how to have conversations on Facebook that I think I've ever gotten, which is you said, look, treat it like real life. And essentially, because, we tend to want to go out there and like push our stuff. It's like, well, you wouldn't do that in real life. You wouldn't walk into a room and like start waving your ad in front of people, right? It's not what you would do. And that was like really honestly a mindset shift that has helped me to more elegantly shift into doing this online. So thank you so much for that, by the way.
The cool thing is it could have been Will or Alex that told you that, because we have this hive mind now at this point. We basically think on the same wavelength all the time. And so it really could have been either of us. Who knows? All
right, let's go from the beginning. Can you guys just share your origin story and take it all the way through to the point at which you decided that marketing was your love and you decided that you guys wanted to team up and maybe even not spend your whole day treating patients, but kind of do something a little bit different?
Yeah, Alex, you want to start?
I love that we both defer to each other. So funny thing is, when you said that like marketing is your love, I was just thinking back to that. Like, I don't know if marketing necessarily is my love. I was thinking about it. Like, I actually do love marketing, but what I really love is helping people like get control of their own freaking lives. Like, that's what I really, really love. And marketing just happens to be a tool to be able to give people more freedom. And so when I look at my origin story or my side of our origin story, it's always centered around, well, how can we help people have more options in life? How can we help people move forward and be able to make more money, keep more of it, ultimately grow it? But Will and I are certainly on the how do you make more money as a healthcare provider side of things. And so that's truly my love. Marketing just happens to be the tool to get people there the fastest from my perspective. And so I would say that our origin story is that we were both physical therapists, actually both really early on in our careers. While I was in PT school, Will as well, we both started having these epiphanies that ultimately being the 9-to-5 PT for me wasn't going to be A, satisfying, and B, make me enough money to like hit my financial goals so that I could own my time with my family. Like, that's the short of it. I have I have 2 daughters.
What is it that, Alex, pause 1 second. I want to address that real quick. So when you say you realized that you didn't want to necessarily treat 9 to 5, what was going on in your mind at that point? How does a therapist realize that the decision that they've made, all this sunk cost, that 150 grand in debt, but they actually don't want to treat patients all day? That's a big decision.
Yeah, man, I'm very much of the opinion that I can use everything that I've learned and experienced up to this point in life and make whatever the heck I want out of my life moving forward. Like what my past has been does not dictate my future. And so I realized that, yes, I could treat the rest of my career or even the next 5 or 10 years and probably be happy, but I'm not seeking just like pure happiness. And I just really don't fit into status quo well. And I almost have like this complex around not wanting to be average. Okay. And so for me, I started looking at, man, are there other ways that I can use the skill sets that I've already earned and experienced and do something a little bit different with them? And ultimately it came down to, I just didn't see myself being able to fully control my time and get to this whole like financial freedom thing. I started getting into financial freedom when I was younger, looking like, oh, how am I going to get this? Dude, I had to make $3 million. That was the number. I had to make $3 million to get financially free by 40. And I was like, how much am I going to have to make in the clinic to make that happen? That wasn't.
I did that math once as well. It's very intimidating when you do it.
That's like sinking feeling of like, oh shoot, that 4% rule really gets to you at one point.
Yeah. And so how did you grow the balls to do it though? I mean, that takes a lot of guts
over time.
To just over time, you say?
No, for real. So I first year in PT school, man, this is when I decided, and I want to make sure that we give Will ample time because he's got a better story.
Yeah.
But I just realized first year in PT school that when I did that calculation, like I still remember seeing that number on my screen after I did the calculation, $3 million I wanted it by age 40. And I was like, okay, wait, but what does the PT make? Okay, 60,000 in Utah. 60,000 up to 3 million. God, like something's super wrong here. And, and I was like, dude, I got.
I'm not a math expert, but this doesn't work.
Like I got to learn to make more money. And again, for me, the thing isn't like the money. It's the being able to control my time so I can spend it with my family how I want. And then I started realizing I had this creative bug in me, which ultimately I knew I wasn't going to be able to use to the degree I wanted within the walls of a clinic. And so I gave myself permission year one of PT school to just like start looking at my options. And that's what ultimately gave me the like guts to go out and just do the darn things. I started looking at the options and I said, is somebody else out there already doing what I want to do? And I didn't see any PTs at the time doing it. This was way before I knew about Greg Todd. I don't even think Greg Todd was doing his thing yet. Aaron LeBauer, the OG in my mind, was just starting on this stuff. I didn't know Paul Goff yet. Like all these guys in the PT space that now we see killing it online, I didn't know any of them yet. I just knew that other people were doing things online. And if they could do it, I could figure it out too.
I love the word that you use, permission, that you gave yourself permission to do it. I think that's super powerful. Well, let's get to you. Did you go the same route or was it somewhat different?
Yeah, it was fairly a similar route. And I think the big thing for me was I realized very early on that the people who had the physical therapists that I look up to, none of them treated full time. They had the financial lives that I wanted. They had the time lives that I wanted, and none of them treated full time. And I saw that from my first clinical rotation. It was the business owner who had some time, who had more of the financial freedom, who was also a physical therapist, but he did not spend his day treating full time. He was out building business relationships. He was building a network. He was putting energy into growing something beyond just treating people. And I also learned really quickly, he wasn't going to have enough people to treat if he wasn't out there marketing to attract more people in to treat. But what happened was I watched him get busy and then had no more time to go out and market to treat. And so it was this conundrum of high, low, high, low, high, low. And this was my very first clinical rotation. I got really lucky. And I learned that the other PT, who I thought was amazing, I thought he was one of the best clinicians I'd ever seen. I still to this day think he's one of the best clinicians I've ever worked alongside. I asked him one time what he made, and he told me, and it was significantly lower than I expected for someone who I thought was pretty elite at what they did. And so I asked, like, well, why don't you get paid more for being so good? He's like, I don't get paid for being good. I get paid for seeing more people. Because the Blue Cross versus United, my therapeutic exercise with all the education I have is billed the exact same as you, Will, who's an idiot who just came out of school and knows nothing. Your TheraX, which is crap, your intervention is billed the same as mine. It doesn't take into account how good I am. Oh, and by the way, if I get people better faster, that's actually a business problem because now I got to go market to get more people in. And so immediately my brain was just like, hold on, I'm not making the amount of money I want. And I'm also going to figure out how to bring people in because in my mind, I was going to start a practice at one day. So all of this was going through my mind of what I'm going to have to do. And I just thought, wow, that's a lot of work for not really having much certainty. And then I looked at my student loan debts, which were $155,000, thinking, well, how do I pay this off? How do I do this? So it was a lot of that. And then the real human aspect of it was I've dealt with anxiety and depression since high school, I would say. And I knew that if I did the same thing every single day, I was locked in the same room every single day, that my mental health would slow down. It would take a toll. And I realized that as an introvert, and I like to clarify what extrovert and introvert means to me. So in this case, it's not are you outgoing or are you shy? To me, extrovert and introvert means how do you recharge your batteries? I recharge my batteries away from human interaction. Doesn't mean that I have to be alone or in a room, like quiet. It just means that I can't be putting this kind of level of energy into talking with you, Jared, because it actually takes energy away from me. I'm able to give a lot, but then I need to recharge away from this intense human interaction. And I realized working at a clinic that was day in, day out, hey, see another person, here's another person, here's another person, here's another person. I was so emotionally drained that by the time I went home, oh, by the way, my day wasn't done yet. I still had to document for an hour and a half on all the notes I couldn't catch up on because I was seeing people, that my mental health was just going to plummet really fast based on what I knew about myself and the environment that I was entering into. And people always say, well, didn't you know what you were going to get paid before you went into this? And the answer is kind of. Like, you kind of know. You see the average salaries. And by the way, the average salaries that you see on these forums take into account people who've worked 25 years and what they're getting paid, as well as a new person. So it's not all kinds of settings, location, right? So it's not just, hey, you get out and you start making average salary. Average, if anyone's out there listening, right, is the middle of what everyone's full spectrum is that could be making. And most people don't start out at average. Most people, when you start out beginner and you work your way towards average. So I started to see this and realize, like, I had to figure something else out. And it led to starting a podcast, reaching out to all these different physios that were out there trying to learn, like, how do I create a life that I actually want, that I'm not burned out by? What I was going to say to that point, last point, was that you kind of have an idea of what you might make when you leave school. You don't really know what it's like to be fully into investing your emotional energy over and over and over again, 5 days a week, deep. You're taking on people's pains. You're taking on people's emotional stories. If you're someone like me, who I don't think science brain of like, whatever, ignore it. Like, no, this is what your body's saying. Let's fix your body. Like, I'm a person who will sit there and go, okay, yeah. And what I learned early on, and it's crazy to me, is that I knew nothing as a student. Like, I was definitely on the like low spectrum of like idiot scale going into my first clinical rotation. And yet people got better. And I really sat there and was like, they'd be like, oh, well, this was great. Whatever you're doing is working. And I'm like, I don't even know what that whatever is right now. I'm literally just putting my hands on your feet. And like, I'm literally doing anatomy palpation for myself right now. Like, oh yeah, there's the cuboid, there's the navic. People are like, oh, it feels great. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Okay. Let's get up and exercise and do stuff. Like, oh my gosh, it feels better. And sure enough, like 6 weeks later, after 12 visits, they felt better. And I was like, I'm not saying there's not a difference between excellent clinician and poor clinicians. I'm just saying that if that's the case, like, what was I really doing to help people? It clearly wasn't whatever I was doing with my hands. Like, that much I'm quite confident of, other than the fact that I was just communicating and transferring energy of confidence, calmness, and creating a safe environment for their body to heal. Like, that is all I can justifiably say I provided for them.
Yeah.
There's no way I can sit here and go, it was definitely my manual therapy skills, or it was definitely my exercise choice.
I think that's an interesting metric that you mentioned for people to identify whether or not what they're doing is right for them, which is how they feel at the end of the day. Because, when I interview clinicians, one of the questions I ask them, are you introvert, extrovert? And the definition that I use it's exactly the one that you just gave, which is what recharges your batteries. And if you're a PT and you're working day in and day out and you're done with your day and you feel great and you feel like you did a lot, then maybe what you're doing is your calling. But if at the end of the day you feel like crap and you feel like you're drained and you wake up in the morning dreading having to do it again, then there's a good chance that you need to start looking at alternatives, which is what you guys are essentially like the proponents of. It's this idea of don't get stuck in this box of just going in, working, and getting out. You're really trying to share a different perspective. So before we go into like the deep stuff in the strategy, let's just quickly jump to how you guys actually connected and then became the dynamic duo that you are today.
Well, if it's okay, I want to make a caveat real quick, because I think that rather than not your calling, it's what is the environment where you can fulfill your calling is what I would say. I don't want someone to listen to this genuinely and go, I feel tired and exhausted at the end of the day as a physical therapist. This isn't my calling. What's probably not your calling is working in an environment that doesn't value your ability to recharge your batteries. And so what does that require? That requires you need to learn how to run your own business or find an environment that values that style. And that means learning how to market. That means learning how to sell. So rather than making, $100 or rather than making $34 an hour, which sadly is not an unrealistic hourly wage for a physical therapist, a doctor of physical therapy, let's say $45 an hour. Well, if you could learn how to communicate what you do with people and sell that time for $200 an hour, you no longer have to see 15 people. You can see 4. You just have to learn new skills. I don't want to isolate someone. I just want to be really clear that we would never say it's not your calling. The environment upon which you're in might be reducing your ability to fulfill your calling. And you have to just understand yourself and find the environment that allows you to feel fulfilled. And that's what we advocate for.
That's a really good point, Will. Let's just jump to how you got, yeah, I know, right? It hits you right here, right? When he talks, I swear to God, like it kind of like digs in a little bit, like right under the xiphoid process. I kind of feel it. Let's just quickly jump to how you guys met and then we'll get into the good stuff.
Yeah, I was sitting at CSM 2017, about to graduate. Had just met Greg Todd there at CSM, and I thought I was going to be an online running coach. So I was sitting back there in these running courses, and I was really like, my mind was on fire with everything that Greg was showing me was possible. And so I was sitting back there at CSM in a session about running and knee pain, and saw a comment that Will had made on one of Greg's posts. It was, as Will does, an incredibly thoughtful comment. So I reached out to him. I was like, Will, this was really good, man. Can I get you on my podcast? And so Will was the very first guest on my podcast that was around personal development. Greg was my second. And as soon as I interviewed Will, you know when you get that feeling of someone that you're just like, man, I would love to be friends with that person. That was instantly the feeling around Will. And as we started creating this sort of just back and forth friendship, we realized that we both felt very similar in what we wanted for ourselves and how we saw ourselves being able to maybe help other people along the digital marketing lines. And we just said, man, what if we created a group together and just started talking about this stuff? And that's what we did. So it all started through Facebook, man.
And that's the Healthcare Digital Marketing Group. So let's go into Facebook, man. You guys are from in the physical therapy domain. You are the go-to guys when it comes to understanding how to leverage Facebook to build your personal brand and how to build your business. So first of all, why Facebook? There's a lot of different platforms out there. Why is that one sort of like the hub, and then everything else comes off of it? I mean, if I'm describing it right.
Yeah. So, well, first off, thank you for that kind compliment of understanding all this stuff so well. The funny part is Alex and I both hated Facebook and still really don't enjoy a lot of the personal side of it. It just happens to be one of the best business tools that you could ever use to get the word out about what you're doing, to connect with people. So I think the first thing of why Facebook is it has the most users. It is where I believe they've recently shown almost over 2 billion people now are on the platform. It means almost 1 out of 4 humans has a Facebook account. What other thing in the entire world connects 1 out of 4 humans besides water, air, like living on the ground? Like those are pretty much the only things that have a higher ratio of where people have things in common. Is like, it's crazy. So 1 out of 4 people. So the argument that like, oh, my people aren't on Facebook, you clearly are just not looking at the platform the right way, because they're there. Whether it's my great grandma for a while was on Facebook. My grandma right now sends me video Facebook chat calls that I didn't even know you could do. And she was 90 or she was 88 when she was doing that. And I was like, this is an accident. She was like, I tried to call you on Facebook video. And I was like, what? Who are you? This is crazy. So everyone's there. That's the first thing. 2 is it is the quickest way that you can grow an audience by leveraging things the correct way. And I'll let Alex kind of talk about strategy, but if you know how to play the rules of the game right, which is the biggest thing I think we have to talk about and be open with, is that Facebook is a business, just like Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, is a part of a business model. They're not like some giant free community center that no one ever monitors or has a reason to do. Like someone's got to pay rent. Someone's got to like keep the electrical bills on. Someone's got to do this. It is a business, and it runs as a business should run, based on strategies, maximizing profit for themselves, things that we don't like to talk about in healthcare, but are realities of these things. And so we have to understand the business side of it and why it runs as a business, how it runs, and how to leverage what it's telling us as customers of the business, of how to leverage it correctly. So I'll let Alex, if he wants to dive into strategy. I just think number 1, it's where most people are. Two, it has the quickest way to grow a fast audience.
And I would just add to that community. Like, what other platform allows you to build community like Facebook does? Can you build a community on YouTube? Kind of, but it's just people venting in the comments section. Can you build community on Instagram? Kind of, but it's a lot of people just wishing that they had the bodies or the cars or the vacations that other people have. Can you build community on Google Plus or whatever that was? Like, they tried, but they failed massively, right? So Facebook is a place where you build community and togetherness. And like, healthcare digital marketing is a community of people all trying to understand digital marketing from a healthcare perspective. You just can't get that on any other platform right now.
I think a lot of people are confused and afraid of the algorithm. Maybe not afraid, but definitely confused.
Yeah.
And, Will, you said something interesting about Facebook is a business. They're running this platform like a business while they offer all of these services. And the algorithm is almost like their back-end way of running the business. It's how they control the flow of information. So what is it that we need to know as physical therapists marketing our practice about the algorithm, the do's and the don'ts? Like, what is it that we really need to understand about it, and how do we use it for good to help our practices?
Yeah, for me, I just want to start off with saying that the algorithm is actually ridiculously simple. All it's telling you is, hey, we really value personal connection. Like, that's it. If all you know is that personal connection is the number one thing that it values, you're good. And so what are the rules around that? Well, the rules are your business page doesn't matter. Okay, if you're just trying to get organic free reach, if you're trying to get in front of people for free, your business page doesn't matter at all. Like, nobody's going to see it. It's almost not worth posting on. The only reason a business page has any value nowadays is to be able to run paid advertising, which, don't get me wrong, incredibly valuable. But if you're not at the point yet where you can run ads or are not confident enough to do that, or to hire someone like Will to help you with that, like, you should not be worried about your business page. Okay, so that's number one. What they did is about 2 years ago now, they just said, like, blanket statement, almost no one's going to see your business page. Okay, cool. So if we understand that and we say, well, shoot, what do I do? Well, if I'm a smaller practice, or especially a solo clinician, I'm going all in on my personal profile. That means I'm running everything through a personal profile, or potentially a Facebook group that's local to my community if I have a brick and mortar presence. Okay. So the algorithm, I just want to drop a couple quick things that, like, here's what to do and what not to do. Number one is we never drop links to any website, any YouTube video, any blog post directly on our posts, because that breaks the rule of people staying on Facebook, right? Facebook gets paid money by having people stay on Facebook. And so if you have a post that says, hey, I'm taking you off Facebook through this link, Facebook says, well, we don't want to show people that kills our profits, right? So that's number one. Just don't share links. If you want to, put them in the comments section. That's plenty easy to do. Just make a little comment under your post with that link. Number two is you need to be willing to be a human on Facebook. And this is what we had talked about earlier, right? Talk about human things. Talk about the realities of being a business owner. Talk about the realities of what it's like trying to get healthy. You don't need to be this perfect person when you're showing up online. And I think that that's a big thing, that we all feel like we need to be this expert physical therapist, and so I must show you the exercise that you need all the time. Do people inherently want exercise? They don't. They really don't. They want to get better from whatever they're dealing with. So talk about that. And if you gain more trust with people, let them into your world a little bit and show them who you are, the personality that you have, the life that you have, the things that you value. That matters far more than just spraying out exercises that any Joe Schmo could do. And so those, I would say, are key rules, at least early on. And I'd love to hear, Will has more, I know, of what to focus on. Don't post on your business page, or don't prioritize business page posting. Don't share links, and just, like, be a human in how you're talking about health and the things that you value.
That's awesome stuff, Alex. Yeah, Will.
Yeah, so to caveat that just a tiny bit is, yes, still post once in a while on your business page, because people will go search for your business and they want to know, are you relevant? Are you live? So if I don't see a post in the last year and a half or 2 years on your business page, I will assume you're out of business. And that's just a general thing for everyone. So I would just say, don't make it a priority of, like, more than once a week at most of putting something there. It is not a place to, like, try to drive business for you. It's how you should look at it. It's a floating thing that lets people know that you're in business, and you can have reviews there. That's how people will use Facebook for your business page. So just a quick caveat, don't totally ignore it. People will use it as a search place. If you don't have much local traffic and people see your business name somewhere, type it into Google. Facebook is one of the highest indexing places on Google. And so they will click on, when they search in Google for your business name, your Facebook link will pop up in one of the first 5 spots more than likely. So you do want to have reviews on your Facebook, and Google will even pull in the Facebook review count on the Google search. So definitely have people leave reviews there, but it's not a place where you're trying to make content to bring in business. That part is essentially dead, and it's not that it's absolutely worthless. It's just, in terms of maximizing your time, one of the least effective uses of your time.
Let's go down that route, but with regards to content. So let's say I have a personal page, and I post some stuff about family, whatnot, but it's primarily used for my brick and mortar practice. And let's say I'm a cash-based PT. I'm in a town somewhere, and I'm trying to attract people to my business. What kind of content should I, as a solo practitioner, be posting on my personal profile in order to attract people to my business?
Yeah. So before that, we have to have context, right? So just because someone has a personal page doesn't mean that anyone's going to see their content. So how do we make sure that local people see our content? Well, you're going to go find local Facebook groups that exist. You're going to join those groups, and you're going to send friend requests to people who are active in that group. Now, this is not a mandate. You don't have to do this. We're just trying to teach you the fastest way to grow your local business for free using these tools. If you have more patients than you have time, so if you have more money than you have time, you should be putting it into Facebook advertising for your local business. If you have more time than you have available money, you should be following and listening to exactly what we tell you to do right now. You will likely get a handful of new patients every month just from doing exactly what we're telling you to do. So you're going to go to local Facebook groups. All you got to do is a search bar in Facebook, type in your town name, go over to the little tab that says groups, find those, join them, find active people, send friend requests. What if they don't like me? I don't know them. That's weird. That's life, and that's business. And these are tactics that work today. And if we've got a mental hurdle about that, we've got to really look within and say, why am I so attached to this digital platform that makes me feel nervous to be a human? Why am I so attached to that? And that's when we might have to look within, and that's okay. I can't be the person to tell you that you need to do this or to work on that. But I would just challenge the thought of, well, that seems really weird and creepy. Well, at some point you got to look in life. Is this a tool where you are so worried about what your mom or grandma or dad or brother, sister looks at your pictures about? Or is this the greatest business tool for free that's ever existed, and you're willing to take advantage of this time in history to do that? Your choice. I can't decide that for you. I'm going to be direct, but this is literally the options that are in front of you, and you have to choose. So with that in mind, that is how you actually add now people to your personal page. And it doesn't make sense to put content on your personal page until you actually start to have people that can see it. So the algorithm itself isn't going to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, so step one, just to be clear, is before you start worrying about what the content is on that page, to go into groups that have your target audience. So let's say like in Madison, there's a Madison moms group, there's a Madison whatever. It's like you go into your local groups, you friend people in those groups with the intention of having them, kind of come to your personal page, check you out. And then as a friend, they're more likely to see content that you do post. Is that right?
Right. And we have a whole strategy of how this is and how you set up your profile. So it's not like why there's context where someone would accept your friend requests. And all we're trying to do is get in front of local people. It's the biggest mistake I see by local business owners time and time again. Well, if I just get my friends and family to like my page or whatever, it's great. Well, great. Are they local? And do they have any reason to ever start a conversation with you? And this is where the big thing comes in. Your content is just a tool to start a conversation. Your content is not, hey, shoulder issue, come by for me now. I will unfriend you in less than 4 minutes, and I'll be like, this person, all they do is sell. We are not advocates of this. We are advocates of you being a community member, providing value to your community through educational content that could lead to someone going, hey, Jared, I know I've been watching your videos, and I've got this thing with my shoulder, and your video was really helpful. Great, you start a conversation. And Alex and I are believers that all sales start from conversations. So that was just key. I'll let Alex carry on. But before we dive into content, you have to understand the reasons or how to actually be successful. This is where people go wrong, right? I've been making content over and over and over again, like every day. I've been so consistent. You have 43 friends and 39 of them don't live in your local area. What did we expect would happen, right?
Yeah, and that's where I think people start to get a little confused between Instagram, where like somebody who's not following you might happen to see your content through hashtags or something, right? But if we want it seen on Facebook, they need to be on our friends list. And then what content do we actually put out? Can you put out exercises? You can, but just be aware that that's not the only thing that will attract people to you. Things like stories. When you have gotten hurt, tell those stories. Things where you've helped people to get over their own issues, staying HIPAA compliant, obviously, with your stories. But I would say storytelling is one of the number one things that people should be focused on. It's hard to do, so I understand that. Going live on Facebook is very, very intimidating to a lot of PTs, and I would say it's one of the number one things you can learn to get over in 2020. You can learn how to go live on Facebook and start talking to people, actually having interaction with them while they're on their live, telling a story, or sharing principles of health, principles of wellness. And you can start looking at really the best content is the content that you're just willing to put out there and test. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for your market, for the type of problems that you want to solve, we want to encourage you to test things and find out what people respond to, and not be so attached to, do I get the likes? Do I get the comments? No, it's okay. Put some exercises out there, put some stories out there, put some recipes out there, put some stretches out there, put some, different things that for you matter. Talk about your values, and then see what people are responding to that allows you to start conversations with them.
I think that's so important. I mean, like, let's just talk about you guys. How much stuff have you put out that you've tested that has bombed rather than succeeded? Because I think some people are so apprehensive, like, they spend so much time contemplating what they should actually put out, not realizing that the way that the really successful people do it is they just put it all out and they find out what's working from what they put out. They don't really preconceive everything. They let the audience tell them what's good. So how much is this like, how much do you guys connect to that concept?
Yeah, man. So we have this phrase that I think it was Teddy Roosevelt said, somebody important said.
Harry Truman.
Harry Truman. Thank you, Will, for remembering that. And it's imperfect action always beats perfect inaction. And so a lot of people know us for this whole imperfect action movement, I guess, that we sort of embody. And that's, look, you don't have to know everything right now, and you're going to suck at it the first time. In fact, the next time you do it, you're still going to suck, and you're still going to suck, and you're still going to feel crappy about yourself. And then at some point down the road, you'll be like, hey, that actually wasn't half bad. And then it hits, and you're like, whoa, that was amazing, right? And so this idea that you should give yourself, again, permission to be bad long enough to get good is really important when it comes to growing online. So for us, when people talk about, guys, how do you plan out content? Look, I answer questions that people ask me. Like, that's how I plan out content. Or I look at problems, trends that I see happening all the time. And it's like, oh, there's my cue to content. I don't have any content planned out, Jared. I don't. And this shocks a lot of people that we create a fair bit of content. I don't have any of it planned out. I sit down and I'm like, dude, I want to do something epic today. What should I talk about? Man, I've been really frustrated about people having this problem, and I see this thing happening all the time. I'm just going to go rant about it today. And that's the content that actually ends up sticking the best, in my opinion, is the stuff that's just like, hey, this is weighing on me today, because it's going to have more passion than if, hi, this is post 382 that I planned out 3 years ago that I knew that I had to do so that I made consistent content. Come on, right? And so ultimately, it's more about you feeling like having some energy, some passion behind what you're telling people, then is the content good? And that's hard to quantify. And so that's why PTs and healthcare providers struggle with that, because it's hard to quantify energy, quantify passion.
I think most of us at this point in time have seen at least something from Gary Vee. And one of the things that he talks a lot about, right, is this idea of attention, that's like the most important commodity that we have these days. And that, of course, as we all know, attention spans are getting smaller. So what can we do in our posts to grab people's attention before they really know who we are and have a connection, right? So like if I see you guys post something like, hey, there's Alex, here's Will, let's see what they're talking about, right? Because I'm interested in you as people. But if you're using it as a marketing tool, the people that are maybe seeing your stuff for the first time don't necessarily have a close connection with you. So if I'm doing a Facebook post or a Facebook Live, what do I need to do in the first 10 seconds of that post in order to make sure that the person that just happens to see me in their feed stops in their tracks and watches at least 30 seconds to 3 minutes of my video?
Yeah. So I would actually say that rather than a technique or a trick is for every time that you have that thought, put out 10 more pieces of content. So what I mean by that is I don't know what's going to stop and get someone's attention. I know that I can research and understand my audience really well, or the group of people I want to help. So key things to me are, do you want to help these people, whether they listen or not? If you don't, you're not going to have success. Do you feel really called to help this group of people? If that's people in pain, to work with them, then you should be willing to speak to them, even if they're not willing to listen yet. Like, if you feel called to do this, that's what you should do. I can't guarantee people will show up. We can't guarantee people are going to stop. I can guarantee that if you consistently show up, like Alex and I do, eventually someone will go, well, I don't know what it was, but eventually I started watching something. And now I watch all of them because I'm interested you, like you said, as a person. So that's number one, is volume over quantity, or volume over quality in this world will win. Like, you will win. You still have to have quality. I'm not saying to ignore, like, actually think about what you're talking about. But for every time that you think, oh, how do I make a new thing do this? Stop, don't think about it, and create 10 more pieces of content, and you will eventually get someone's attention. Two, I think the biggest thing is people, like you said, Jared, you want to know about people. I don't want to know about my shoulder. I don't want to know about these things. I don't want to know about physical therapy. That is absolutely sure. Like, I am certain of that. Why? Because it takes hard work. It requires potential, like, discomfort. If I could choose to take a pill and not feel any pain, or to go to physical therapy and do hard work, I know people are going to be upset about this. I would choose the quickest, least difficult path to do. We make this choice every single day in every other aspect of our life. Jared, if I could get you $1,000 tomorrow by doing one thing, or we could go work really hard and go talk to 1,000 people and try to get $1,000, which would you rather do? You'd rather just give it to you. Like, that sounds way better than having to do all that work.
I'll take the money pill. Thank you.
Not that it's good or bad. This is what we're competing against in terms of selling. So people want to know who they're working with. They want to know, why should I invest all that time and energy? And I want to know, like, data is not going to do that for me. Sorry, guys. Like, putting polls of research about disc bulges not being real and percentages of things, I don't care. I literally, and I'm a physical therapist, and I don't care. I'm not going to make my decision to go see a physical therapist based on percentages and data. I'm going to make a decision based off someone communicating with me as a human that I feel connected to, that's going to help convince me that I need their help. So how do you stop and get their attention? Show up more and more and more and more and more and more. I know you might think, well, that's a lot of time. Yes, everything worthwhile requires a lot of time and effort.
That's really powerful stuff, Will. I mean, I think that really goes back to what I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, which was this idea that you have to treat Facebook like you treat people in real life. And that if I met somebody at a party, I wouldn't start talking about their broken I would not introduce that to them, right? I wouldn't want to, we would talk about human stuff, like you said. And eventually the conversation would migrate to, hey, would you mind taking a look at my shoulder, right? I mean, it has to come from them. But that's not how I would start the conversation, right? The conversation would be about getting to know them, about understanding where they're struggling in life, about sharing where I'm struggling in life, and really connecting on a real interpersonal basis. And I think that was the paradigm shift for me, at least, is when you introduced it. I think it was you actually that introduced the concept to me of just treating people on Facebook like they're actually in front of you. How would you start the conversation? So I think that's super powerful. And the second thing you said was this idea of start more conversations. It's almost like speed dating. You have to see a lot of people before you maybe find the right one. Same thing with content. You have to speed date your content and really put a lot of stuff out there, because you really don't know when you're going to put something out that actually grabs that person's attention. I remember even Paul mentioned something about how when he puts out content, if it's not this that grabs you, it's not this that grabs you, it's not this that grabs you, maybe it'll be this. And he doesn't care which thing it is, because he doesn't know. He just keeps putting stuff out there until something actually gets your attention. Let's shift just a little bit. Let's go towards groups. You guys have an amazing group. And one of the things that I find so amazing about your group is how engaged the people in your group are with each other, and that they're not just relying on you guys to produce content. And that's something that I am constantly struggling with in my own group, the PHYSIOSecrets group, because I am an educator in physical therapy on a very clinical level. And it's like people are there, they're like, teach me stuff, come on, like dance monkey, let's go. Like, show me new stuff. And I'm like, no, but I want to hear what you guys are doing. What are you doing in your clinic? And that is very hard for me to transition that mindset in my group to people before they start to actually engage with each other. And we're starting to actually move in that direction. But I actually want to talk about the groups again with regards to most of the listeners who are in the brick and mortar business, not necessarily selling stuff online. So if somebody who owns a practice, again, let's say James out in the Midwest who's got a cash-based practice, and he wants to start a Facebook group in his community, what does he do? What's the most important thing for him to do? Or how does he actually position it? Like, what's the strategy so that he can actually use that Facebook group within his community to A, build a community, and then to build his business?
So I would say that first and foremost, you got to understand that communities are built around identity. And so I would be looking at what is the identity of the person that I really want to work with? Like, what would they identify as? And our group, for example, Healthcare Digital Marketing, it's people who are healthcare providers who want to understand this digital marketing stuff for themselves so that they can be in control of their businesses. And they're not just in there to find someone to hire it out to. They always come in feeling like, guys, I really want to understand this stuff so that someday I can hire it out and someday I can do it. But they're coming in from a place of understanding. They're truly trying to become business owners. And so that's the identity that they're taking on as they're coming in, but also they're willing to share, right? And so as we're looking at someone who has a brick and mortar practice, like, what's the identity of the person that you want to help? Like, oh, healthy Hartford people. Like, that's not going to be an identity that, yeah, I'm a healthy person, right? No, it's like rugged ultra marathoners of Hartford. Like, I don't know, like find a group where it might actually feel a little too niche and go down that rabbit hole. And just
I was about to say, does it have to be a niche group?
I think that unless you're doing like a yard sale group where it's just like a random, like, but even that's niche, right? It's like, hey, people on a Saturday who are selling crap from their house, right? So I think that if it's too broad, people just won't be like, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And that's really the feel that I want as I'm setting up my group is, will someone see it and say, yeah, that's exactly what I need right now? Because that's what I want. I don't want somebody who's mildly interested in my group. I want someone who sees it and is like, ooh, that's what I need right now. Because that's what will create buy-in to the community. And I'm not talking about them actually purchasing anything, but them assuming that identity and going in and saying, yes, this is me. I finally found a group of people who are just like me, and we can all talk about stuff together. And again, Facebook is about community. And so it all starts with that identity early on. And the more specific you can get, I think the more likely you are early on to be successful with it. For example, someone like one of our clients, Liz, who started off with a mountain biking injury support group. And while, yes, we might feel like that is still assuming an identity, like people don't want to identify as injured, right? And then how long are they injured for? 3 or maybe 6 months, and then they move on. Like, are they going to keep identifying as injured mountain bikers after that? No. And so instead, she shifted and created the mountain biking ladies group. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a lady mountain biker. I can identify as that, and I'm going to be a lady mountain biker 6 months from now. Cool. So just think about those things as you're creating it. I wouldn't necessarily want to create an injury support group in my local area, knowing that they're going to be in for a month and then gone after that. So more looking at what's the identity, how can I rally a community around that, bring in other pieces, not just my expertise, but truly create a community around that thing. That's, I think, the most successful that we could be with it. Will, I'm sure you've got other thoughts that are more important than what I just said.
Yeah, and Will, if you can also share, like, what would you do if you had a practice that was general ortho? Like my business downstairs is general ortho, and it's general ortho for a very specific reason, which is that I get bored easily. And if I can see enough different people, ankle, shoulder, spine, MS, Parkinson's, I don't care, vestibular, I have gotten better as a therapist by treating a large variety of patients. And I want my therapist to treat a large variety of patients because I think it makes them better as a therapist and it keeps us fresh. So we don't niche, not because it's not good for business. We don't niche because we like the variety. It keeps our therapists mentally engaged. There are a lot of just general ortho, practitioners out there who don't necessarily have a specialty like golf or mountain biking or running. What do those folks do?
Yeah, so there's some principles that I think are important to cover, which is number one, if the goal is to start the group to then promote and sell your business, you're not going to have success. No one wants to go to a group that's about you and what your agenda is. It's going to come through and it's not going to go very well. Alex and I, we look back, we were really lucky. We had nothing to sell. We had no profit. We didn't know we had a business on our hands. We didn't know anything. It was just, we kept answering the same questions over and over and over again and making all these videos to send to people, and said, well, that's just so consuming. What if we just put it into a place where other people can access it? And it worked out great. And so if there's an agenda behind it, I've just seen it time and time again, it doesn't go well. If there's an agenda behind it, it doesn't go well. If you generally love working with, let's say, marathoners, and you run marathons, and you just love to meet other people at marathon in your area, that's a perfect match, and you should start a Facebook group if one doesn't exist. I would say from a hierarchy, because if people are listening to this and they're business owners, they should really go through this sort of algorithm in their mind. Number one, is there already a group that already exists? Yes, great. I'm going to join that group and I'm going to be an active member, and I am not going to post about my expertise. I am just going to help people by giving advice when I hear it. Step number two, don't go very far into that. If someone has a question, you take that to a messenger conversation. So it's not like you're advertising in the group. That is the best use of your time. Creating a group and running a community can be very time consuming. So if you're a business owner and your goal is to make money and treat, those people already exist in a group. Do not go start your own group. If you have time and want to create a group, cool, create a group. Does it meet? Is it the kind of people you want to work with? Are you a part of that community? And can you talk about all the aspects that those people in those communities, in that community would deal with? Yes? Cool. Totally worth your time. Awesome. Number three, and this is where I just think is a business principle in general, is there's no tactic or strategy that is going to replace the amount of prospecting that you need to be doing daily to drive revenue into your business. What I mean by that is there's no one post that's going to bring you 10 patients. It's possible. I would rather you send 100 messages to people in your local community or emails saying, hey, my name's Will. I do this. Would love to offer a free workshop at your place, or would love to know kind of what you're doing. Do you or a friend or family member have something going on? If you do that, you will grow your business. And I have zero, negative 0.001% doubt that you will grow your business. So many of us are so afraid to talk to more people. If you want to grow your business, you have to get out there and you have to, I don't care if it's a Facebook group, your personal profile, or whatever. I just see it day in and day out. The amount of people not willing to start conversations with people and just hope that conversations will come to them. That's the best advice I can give you. If like, I love Facebook groups, I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the tactics. If you're a business owner, it should not be a priority on your radar. Like, unless you already have one that exists, it is not a good use of your time. And I just want your listeners to get the best use of their time. Don't even go down that rabbit hole. Go find local groups that exist already and interact and be a community member. But do not spend time. You're way better suited to just go actually cold message people, introducing yourself if you want business.
So if you're listening right now, I hope you are at least getting a sense of why Alex and Will are such damn good coaches and why I hired them myself. Because, man, you two guys have like such a really interesting perspective on it. And you can really hear almost like the slight subtle differences between the Alex and Will approach mentally, like on how you guys approach this stuff. But it's such an amazing set of perspectives that you guys have when it comes to this stuff. And you know, in this whole conversation, it just keeps coming back to this idea of, treat marketing like life, and start conversations, connect with people. Do not think about your marketing strategy as a marketing strategy. At the moment you start doing that, you are almost destined to fail because everybody is going to read through that and no one likes to be sold. And I think that, the way that you guys approach marketing is so unique and so interesting, and it's so not tactic driven, that it's such a real fresh perspective. And so I am like almost scared to ask a strategy question because I feel like I'm asking the Pope how to get more Facebook followers. But let's just talk about this word funnel, because a lot of people hear the word, don't really understand what it is. It kind of means a lot of different things. And just more from an educational perspective, like if you guys can just, drop a little information on, first of all, what is a funnel? Does a business really need a funnel to do what it's doing? And if they do need a funnel, like what do they do?
Cool. I would like to take this one. Yes, your business needs a funnel. Every business needs a funnel. I just want you to know what a funnel is. A funnel is a way for somebody to progress from not knowing who you are to knowing a little bit more about you to being like, hey, I think I really want to work with them, to being able to purchase from you. And by that definition, every single business has and needs a funnel, or else they're not a business, because they're not serving customers, they're not making money, they're not a business. So yes, every business needs a funnel. Does every business need an online funnel? And what is an online funnel? How is it different from what I just said? An online funnel is simply a digital representation of the relationship that you would have with a real human.
The digital representation of the relationship that you would have with a real human.
Okay, so let that sink in for just a minute. So I'm sitting here surrounded by Russell Brunson's books, surrounded by marketing books left and right. Our business name is Healthy Funnel. And I'm here to tell you that most people should not be focusing on an online funnel initially, at least not early on. Now, a lot of more advanced business owners, heck yeah, like totally a great thing for your business. But let's just talk education, because that's the question that you asked. I want to make sure we answer that. Education-wise, what is an online funnel? Because everyone's been hearing about that. Well, it's simply a step-by-step process with each step being a different web page. So you can think of it like, hey, want to find out about my business? Here's one step in the process, and it's one single web page that can tell you about your back pain. Oh, wow, I think that's really cool. I want to know a little bit more, and I want to get your complete guide on back pain. Okay, sweet, give me your name and email. Let's progress this relationship a little bit without me having to be there and asking you for it, and say, would you give me your email and I'll send you over this really cool free guide that I have on back pain. Someone says, yeah, that's awesome. Boom, next step, you send them, that's a funnel step, right? Then we're sending them this great PDF, and we also happen to have their email so we can continue that relationship. And how does a relationship progress? It progresses through communication, right? Like my wife and I didn't just marry each other because we saw each other and like kept looking at each other for 15 months and then got married. Like we communicated, we had shared experiences. We realized that the things that she wanted were similar to the things that I wanted, and that we had these ultimate shared values, and we really liked each other, and she's beautiful, so I want to marry her, right? So, but it all hinges around communication and time spent together. So now in the digital funnel, I get to send someone emails, right? That's one way that I can communicate with them. I send them the emails. I talk about their back pain. I talk about their story. I talk about the things that they want. They're like, man, this Jared guy's amazing. I really like the stuff that he's giving me. He says that I can call him and get more information about what it's like to work with him. Jared, I just saw that you had this $49 back pain special that you emailed me about. Can you tell me about that? Oh my gosh, we're digitally progressing the relationship. That's all a funnel is. It's an opportunity to digitally progress a relationship that leads towards business.
So do not bring a ring to speed dating. You have to ask for the first date first, and then the second date and the third date. And ultimately, I think that's quite aligned with my perspective as well, that the word funnel has been ascribed to only the online world by many people, but in reality, that's not what it is. It's the journey that your potential customer goes through every step, where they get to know you, then they like you, then they trust you, up until the point where they actually buy from you and become a customer.
And may I add there that most of the time when people think about creating an online funnel for their business, they're saying, hey, I would like to hide behind technology and not have to know how to communicate with people. And the funnel will do the human work for me that I'm not willing to do. And that is setting you up for massive failure. So if you don't know how to communicate with people already, why in the world would we say, hey, let's take out the most important relationship, or the most important part of a relationship, which is the human connection, and see if it still works? It's not going to. And so someone shouldn't be focused on creating a funnel until they know how to communicate with their customer well in the first place.
That's a good point. And I think also, doing it online almost doesn't even make sense, or doing it solely online doesn't make sense until you're at the point where you need to scale beyond your ability to service that thing in person. let's just quickly talk about ads, and then I want to finish with the concept of the future of physical therapy, which is a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So real quick, let's just touch on ads. What ad strategy? I've been using sort of like the Frank Kern approach recently, where I've been putting out as much value-based stuff as I possibly could, and then retargeting the people that watch my videos. And I have to tell you, I'm selling a myofascial cupping course right now. That has been working better than anything I've done up to this point through the whole remarketing thing. But it's a little bit more of an advanced strategy. So how does somebody, I guess, start with ads, and then what have you guys noticed is working the best? Is it messenger ads? What are you optimizing for? What are the tips and tricks? And then we'll have an opportunity at the end of this talk to really give the listener an opportunity to learn more from you guys about how to go deep into it.
Yeah, so I actually run Alex and I had a agency for a while. We were running ads for clinics. And then we just realized we loved online business more. We were having success with our clients. We just loved online business. But I've kept going just with my own little niche advertising agency. And so I spent a lot of time studying ads and what's working. And the biggest thing I can say for people is advertising as a principle has worked for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's as simple as the speaker going in the Coliseum and going, "Hey, we're offering chicken, three pennies off for whoever goes out, the first 100 people," right? The principles are, how do you get in front of a group of people? How do you have an offer for them? And how do you tell them how to take advantage of that offer? That's the only principle of advertising. If nothing else, if you want to look at conversions and all these things and all these fancy words, odds are you're probably reading too much and not doing enough, would be the way that I would explain that. So with that in mind, what do we do? Well, if we're going to use Facebook and Instagram and we're going to use advertising, the big thing is, before you ever even click any buttons on the computer, what are you offering for people? If you don't know what you're offering for people, you don't have much business running ads. So what is our offer, right? If it's not you could try as crazy as want to buy a full plan of care for 8 packages at something, at least that's an offer. Would I say that that's an offer I'm going to watch on my news feed and take advantage of? Probably not. I'm not going to see like, oh, this is this Jared guy. The first time I've seen him, I'm going to spend $800 with him. Just likely not going to happen. Probably not going to happen in my world, right? So what do? We look at what are low dollar offers that we can do to bring people in. So what I find most effective right now, if we're going to get real technical, is you want to run conversion campaigns, which means that you have to take your little Facebook pixel code, and there are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do this. You're going to put it on your landing page and your thank you page, which is kind of funnel sounding, but just think the page that someone would go to, and then the page after they give you their information. I would do that if you're a local based owner, which most people are. You're not going to add any specific targeting, and you're not going to, the only thing you're going to do is change your demographic age to whatever your age range would be that you would help people, and you're going to let Facebook's AI do everything for you. This is the number one
And you're
mistake.
optimizing for conversions.
Conversion.
Do you not need enough traffic for Facebook to be able to optimize for conversions? Because I heard that you need a certain number of people before it can actually learn who the right person is.
I would say that I have just started 3 campaigns in the last 2 weeks with people who had never even run ads before. We're getting people to sign up for $47, $37, $57 assessments for $10 to get them. And they don't have any data on their pixels. So no, you can go, if you're in a low market area, and if it doesn't work, it works just like a traffic ad. So it doesn't matter really at all. You might as well take advantage of the AI that it goes for. But if you're local, biggest mistakes I see is trying to target too much, trying to target interests, like, oh, do CrossFit and what are they called? Obstacle races and golfers, right? You got to understand, we're talking big data. And most of our brains, including mine, cannot comprehend the power of big data. Like, you and I think, oh, 14,000 people, that's great. That's a lot of data. In Facebook's world, that's not even a drop in the ocean of data. Facebook wants as much data as possible to work at its most powerful. So the more restrictions you put on it, the worse that it works. So all I'd say is set up a conversion. If you're looking to get people to take action quickly, target women primarily. Those are the ones who make decisions even for their husbands, right? If you want to target men, someone goes, well, if you want to target men, you should, wouldn't you want to target men? I said, no, you want to target women who will make decisions for their husbands or boyfriends. That's how this works. We've seen it.
Alex and I are laughing. No one can, if you're listening on Apple, like whatever, you're listening to podcast, you can't see it, but it's, it's true. Anyway, carry on.
So you want to do that and you want to have an offer. So what is something that you can do for it? What I don't recommend is free consults or free phone calls. People don't follow through on that. You want to have some type of I did a live video today on this. How do you create low end offers, right? What is it something that someone could come in for? So what about a quick shoulder screen or assessment, right? We're not going to call it that. We're going to call it the bulletproof your shoulder, whatever, something. That sounds cooler to me than, hey, do you want to spend time and me pinch your shoulder for a half an hour and be like, no, I don't want that, right?
Are you running a picture ad, or you're running a video ad for your first ad?
So interesting. What I've found time and time again to actually get people to take action is image ads dominate video ads. So to take people up on an offer, an image ad over and over again, and you only want to run it in your Facebook feed or Instagram feed. Nowhere else. It's going to give you like 17 different placements. Just your Facebook feed, just your Instagram feed. Everything else.
What about can you retarget a image ad?
So you can retarget by clicks. You can retarget by website visits. The thing that I found is if you can play the game. So here's, if we want to get real next level, what I would do and what Alex and I do what we would do for clients, what I do for clients is you will always have video view campaigns going at $1 to $3 a day. And if you're in a town that has under 200,000 people, every 2 months, you will get in front of almost half of those people. We're talking like $60 to $180 to get in front of 100,000 people in your local area. Like you should always be running those. It's just.
But your offer ad is a picture ad.
The offer ad is a picture ad. I recommend using a picture of you or your staff, ideally in your clinic, or working with a patient. If you have a patient who's given you permission to use their image, people want to see who they're working with, and they want to be able to visualize where they will be when they work with you. So that's what I would do. Do not make offers. So if you're like, well, I'll do 15% off an eval. Well, 15% doesn't move the needle for most people. Like if you were like, hey, I'll give you this sample of grilled cheese at the grocery store, but you got to pay 85% of it to get the sample. You'd be like, why don't I just buy the whole thing?
How do you get around some of the Facebook policy stuff about you can't mention pain, you can't mention your pain, you can't call people out, you can't say, hey, we'll just say this, anybody who's not run Facebook ads, if you're going to try this on your own without hiring Will to help you, be warned that you can't say, hey, do you have shoulder pain, hey, do you have neck pain, because Facebook does not like that. They will not approve your ad. And in many cases, you can get your stuff shut down. So what kind of messaging do you use to actually get in front of people who understand that this is an ad for people who have shoulder pain, even though you can't say, hey, do you have shoulder pain?
Yeah, so the basic script, no matter what you're doing across any online platform, or if you were in a local newspaper, would be call out your people first. So, hey, Jared, what town are you in again? Hey, Madison. So, hey, Madison friends. Right? Hey, Madison seniors. Hey, Madison athletes. Hey, Madison whatever. Call them out. Oh, it's for me. Most people skip this part and think, well, why would they do that? They know that. They don't know. And they don't know that, like, you're local. If I just saw Dr. Jared's physio room and it didn't say Madison, I'd be like, I don't even know. Do you know how many ads I get across my phone that are for local businesses that are in, like, Texas or, like, New York or, like, it's crazy. Like, that. Like, they don't call me out. So I click on it. I'm like, where is this place? New Mexico. Why are they spending dollars to get in front of me? This is crazy. Right. So if you call out, or sometimes they'll call out, hey, mental health coaches. I'm like, clearly, I mean, I know you're trying, but this is not appropriate for me. Right. So I move on, which is good, actually. You don't want to spend money on me watching it if I'm not, or clicking on it if I'm not the right person. So you want to call them out. And then you want to start with something like sick and tired of nagging back pain. The best way that you can approach this is go in generality versus second person. So thankfully for Spanish, I know how to use these terms. Otherwise I would never have learned English language. But so second person being like you or your pain, right? So instead of talking to that, you talk in generality of third person or the one, right? So sick and tired of nagging shoulder pain, totally fine on Facebook. Sick and tired of dealing with your nagging shoulder pain, not cool.
So you have to eliminate that second person. That's really the key.
It's the key, right? Facebook wants you to make generalities about people. They don't want their end user to feel so creeped out that you know so much about them that you leave or feel uncomfortable. And that goes back to the business of Facebook. Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook. If I started my ad with, hey, you physical therapy owner who's dealing with debt because I looked at your income status and you ranked in the bottom 15%, and so I'm targeting you, you would be like, why does he know that? You're like, yeah, I do know that, right? And you'd be like, this is really creepy. I don't feel comfortable with this. And then you wouldn't want to come back to Facebook, and they don't want that. They want you to feel comfortable. So if we make it just seem like a floating newspaper ad that happens to be on Facebook, you will have far greater success and far greater people actually tune into what you're doing.
Alex, anything to add on that?
This is so good. Like, go back and listen to the last 5 minutes. Take crazy close notes of what Will just said, and then just go implement.
I got my notes. I'm taking them right now.
It's just like a free masterclass on Facebook advertising for PTs. Offer creation, how to advertise, what to say, what not to say. My goodness.
Oh, the last biggest thing with that though is where I see people, why these things don't work or not getting traction is where I think Alex and I really thrive. And that's helping people to understand the pains and frustrations of the people they want to work with. So often we just focus on how we can help people and not think about what is it like to live the life of the person that we're helping? What are they dealing with? How do we communicate in a way that represents empathy, that represents understanding, that represents connection, that represents not a sense of judgment or guilt? So many of us either write, and by write, communicate, I should say, whether it's written form, audio, video, we communicate in a way that's centered around me and my desires and what I want from you, rather than I am here to be a conduit to support you in the journey that you're going on as a consumer. And if there's anything that I think we've made, I think we've helped a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but I think that's probably the biggest one outside of actually helping people have to then look within of why they're communicating that way and have to break that part down to then be able to communicate outwardly in a way that is selfless. And it's amazing when you turn selfless in your ability to market and communicate, the level of attraction that you bring in of people who want to work with you. Time and time again, Alex, is it safe to say, just changes the game for people?
Totally does. A lot, Jared, of what it comes down to is like being okay intrinsically with yourself, being confident enough in yourself that what you have to give people is truly going to help them, and then simply being okay, like just helping people. And it's so interesting to me. I think that so much as PTs, I don't know if it's how we feel about the knowledge that we've gained, that we just guard this stuff so closely. It's it's okay. Just be all right helping people, whether or not they end up paying you. Be in abundance. And when it comes down to it, I think that's what Will and I end up preaching so much is be in abundance. Don't be operating from this place of scarcity. And when you find yourself asking questions like, yeah, but am I giving too much here in my content? Stop it. Oh yeah, but will somebody like this post? Stop it. You can have lots of other opportunities to do that. We're operating from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. That's when we start winning.
That's awesome. And the other thing I heard is this idea of empathy, is really having true indeed empathy for the person that you are actually trying to connect with. And again, I think it just comes back to how would I actually do it if I had an actual patient in front of me sitting here, is that they need to know that I'm an expert. I need to be fully confident in myself and what I'm going to share with them. And I also need to be listening enough to be able to empathize with them and really understand, not just on a superficial level, but on a deep level, what they're actually struggling with and what they're going through. And I can't help them until I do that. And I think that if we can just take the mindset and the actions that we use as therapists in person and translate that into an ad and not look at it like it's some different universe, that's tremendously helpful for me. So hopefully that's helpful for other people. I want to finish up with one super important question. And I'm asking this question primarily because I think it's all people are talking about on Facebook right now. Not all people are talking about, but I see it all over the place. I was just interviewed by Jerry Durham. He's starting a new YouTube show. And he asked, the conversation was really about the future of physical therapy in 2020 and what things are really going to look like from a practitioner's perspective and a business owner's perspective. Is it as bleak as some people believe that it is? There's a lot of people out there that are hurting right now with huge amounts of debt. And it's like, we can put on a smile and we can say everything's going to be okay, but I'm feeling it in my business. I mean, there's some real stuff going on that's really affecting people, and it's really hitting their wallets pretty hard, and it's affecting people's ability to do things that they want to do in life. And there's amazing people out there in our industry like you guys who are out there trying to free people from that and give them different opportunities so that they can pay back their loans and make a little bit more money. But there's a lot of people that are still really, really, really stuck and frustrated. And then the flip side is there's people out there that are really saying, no, this is actually the best time to be a physical therapist. And I'm actually one of them that I actually think that there's a huge opportunity as the dichotomy. I just did a podcast called The Death of the Mid-Sized Clinic, whereby, which is all about how these middle-sized clinics that are 3 to 4 practices are just being gobbled up by the juggernauts. They're going away. The only thing that's left are these large hospital-based practices and these corporate-owned practices and cash-based practices, which is perfect, because if you're a cash-based business owner, I don't want to compete with the middle guy. I want to compete with this guy because there's a larger differentiator. So there's actually like 2 ways to look at the future of physical therapy, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
I feel like, first and foremost, the future of physical therapy, for me, or I'll say for any single practitioner, the future of physical therapy is what they're going to make of it. Like, there are physical therapists right now who are killing it, who have never been doing better. And there are physical therapists right now who are getting laid off left and right, who are really struggling. The interesting thing is, at the end of the day, I still have my agency to be able to choose how I'm going to live out the rest of my career as a therapist, regardless of market conditions. Like, there are still people paying for physical therapy left and right. So there are still opportunities for me as a physical therapist. Now, interestingly, if you didn't catch the drift from early on, Will and I very much feel that you are in control of where you take your career, right? And I think that we can't keep expecting status quo to stay the same and serve everyone, and that we all just get to ride the wave of other people's innovation, other people's ability to sell, other people's ability to market. And I think it's becoming very clear that if you want to succeed as a physical therapist and not just make enough to get by, but make enough to be able to crush through student loans, to be able to take care of your family in the way that you want, you're going to need to learn new skill sets. Like, that for me was what very early on became so apparent. And I think this is bringing that conversation full circle. I honestly don't care what's going on outside of my individual lane. Like, yes, it affects me. And yes, I know that I have the responsibility to help others, but ultimately my career is my career. Whoever's president, whatever law passes, doesn't matter. There are opportunities left and right. Are you kidding me? Right now, we're in the best freaking economic time that we've seen for a long, long time. Like, it's so easy right now to make money relatively. And I say that with empathy, knowing how hard it is as a business owner, struggling to start something from scratch over the past 2 years. So I say that with a lot of empathy. I know that it's hard, but there's also so much opportunity. And so the question of the future of physical therapy, ultimately, I feel like dude, Jared, can I just be honest here? I think people whine and complain and put so much blame on other people before taking on impetus to make the change for themselves. And so when I see a lot of people complaining on social media, complaining in Facebook groups, complaining, I just honestly stop and ask myself, when are you going to stop complaining and just go change your own situation? Take stewardship over your own life, rather than expecting somebody else to pass a law that's going to positively impact you and save you from your situation. That's what I think of the future of physical therapy. It's going, just like I think of the future of our nation. Dude, it starts with my family. The future of my family starts here in the 4 walls of my home. What's going on outside of that is going to happen no matter what. There's a lot of stuff that I can't really control. And so I'm going to focus on what I can control, do everything that I can in my power to control my end destination, and try to lift others up along the way. And that's what ultimately Will and I are trying to do. What's
the number one thing holding people back?
Themselves, I think. Alex,
what does that mean? People say that themselves, but we know it's a mental block. We know it's fear, but what is it that they need to how do you take your own mind? It's like this whole like ego thing. Like, how do you talk yourself into believing in yourself enough to believe in yourself?
Okay, here's two things that I feel really strongly about. Number one, I feel really strongly that we're all privy to inspiration from our Creator. Now, this is not a question of spirituality. That's not what we're getting into here. I do believe in a Creator, and I believe that He wants me to know exactly what I need to do for my life. Great. Second thing is, I believe that you seeing the possibility from other people is absolutely critical for you giving yourself permission to go after that thing. So I talked about giving myself permission. Jared, that's come from two places. Number one, it's coming from me like digging down intuitively and asking, what do I want? And asking above what's possible for me and receiving very clearly that inspiration of what's possible. Number two, it's going out and seeing who is doing what I want. Is there somebody out there that's already doing it? And so for me, that mindset shift starts first and foremost internally with asking, what does Alex want? Then looking at, okay, like, is there something that I need to be doing? What am I not doing? Now, whether you're a spiritual person or not, like, seek that inspiration from beyond you, because it's going to come, whether that's through books, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through prayer, whether that's through consulting with mentors. Like, find that higher level of achievement, but then you have to believe that it's possible. And for me, this gets back to the question of, am I surrounding myself with people that are not just constantly dragging down and saying, oh, woe is me, this is terrible. Like, if you're sitting in these places where all the time you're just surrounded by people that are telling you things are going down, it's going to suck, you're not going to be able to make it, the economy is about to crash, like all this negativity just constantly pulling you down and making you retract rather than expand, then I can tell you where your destination is going to be. Instead, if you're searching out, like, you physically have to go search them out because they're not going to come to you. You physically have to search out people and communities where they're saying, no, look at the opportunities, look at what's possible. So for me, that mindset shift of what's holding us back, it's me not even dreaming, number one. It's me not searching for higher inspiration, number two. And it's me not seeking out people that show me what's possible.
I love that, man. I would say that one of the things that drove me to actually want to do a podcast, besides being able to connect with my audience better, is being able to connect with the people that I'd have the opportunity to interview. And that was the podcast in many ways for me is a way to get to know people for whom they're doing what I want to be doing better, and for me to be inspired, and then for my listeners to be inspired. So I think what you said about, I don't know the exact phrase, but you're only as something as the 5 people you hang out with, or whatever that phrase is. But
the average of the 5 people around you, yeah.
Yeah, you have to surround yourself by people that inspire you to do stuff and that have walked in the footsteps. And I think it's important, I'm going to add something onto what you said, is that when you're looking up to somebody, don't pick the person at the top, because it almost seems that that's just too far away. It's okay to follow somebody who's just 10 steps ahead of you, just 20 steps ahead of you, just up on the next landing. You look at some people who are like, way up here with hundreds of thousands of followers, and it just seems so daunting to be able to get there. But they all started where you're at right now. And when you're looking up to people and when you're having conversations, have conversations with people that are only just 2-3 steps ahead of you, because they oftentimes know what the next step is for you to be able to take to get to where they're at. And then once you're where they're at, you keep looking ahead. And I think it's important not to get intimidated. Anything there that kind of like strikes home with you, Will?
If I had a microphone, I'd drop it right now. I think Alex said everything that I would say. It was amazing. I don't think there's much to add. I would just say that I find people grading themselves in life or hoping to get a grade externally. I think we're conditioned to get external validation to give us permission to move forward in life. Like, that's literally the education system. Hey, prove to me that you can get X amount of points, and therefore you get permission to move on to the next thing. And we continue to live that life after that system's over. So after that system ends, you go into a business world or environment, and I don't care whether you're an employee, you have a job, you hate it, you work for a nonprofit, like, you're in a system that revolves around money changing places and you having a job. And if you're seeking out external validation still as an adult, which I empathize for because I lived this up until about 30 years old. I'm 32, soon to be 33, that I lived life expecting to get a grade. And I was hoping someone would give me a grade that I'd get an A. And I don't know what that would have been, like a certificate or a raise, instead of realizing, like, what is the grade that I want to give myself in life? and I need to go seek that out. And so I just see so many people stuck seeking permission to move forward in life. And no one is going to come and give you an A- or an A+ or an F. Your relationships will give you that grade. You'll know your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your friends, relationships with people that you care about. They'll give you the grade. If your life sucks, it's because you aren't taking care of those things in your life. And you're probably hoping someone will give you a grade. You have to go change the grade yourself. You have to create whatever that is for yourself. So I think there's a huge conditioning part that I really feel for all of us, because I've been living it for a long time, expecting some type of external validation to tell me whether I'm doing good or not in life. And just isn't going to come.
It's got to come from inside. I think that's really interesting. As you were saying that, I was feeling that in my own body about this need for validation. And it almost goes from your parents to your grades. And then once you go online, it turns into likes and followers and subscribers. And it's that same exact feeling, which is, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And I know myself, when I first started to go online, it's really easy to get kind of obsessed with that stuff and look for that external validation. And it's almost important to say it bluntly, just to give I don't give a crap, I don't give a fuck mindset. And once you can get to that, it's not that you don't give a fuck about other people or about your fit. It's that you don't give a fuck about what other people think. It's that whole Gary Vee thing. It's like, if you can stop worrying about what the judgment that everybody else has about you, and you can just come from inside of you and produce what's inside of you and share what's inside of you, there's going to be some people that love it, and there's going to be some people that don't love it, and it's all okay. As long as it's genuine and it's with integrity, that's all that really matters. So what is Launch Code, and who is it for?
Man, Will and I have had that conversation a lot over the past few months. So Launch Code is our product that helps people who have an audience, who have established that, yes, I truly do want to have an online business. They've gone through that initial hurt of like, I can put myself out there. Oh, yes, I do have a message. Once they've validated that, yeah, I can do this. How do I turn this into a business? That's what Launch Code is. It's how do we take an audience that you have, a group of people who are following you, an idea that you have that they've told you that they want. How do we bring that into the marketplace? How do we create the product? How do we market it? How do we sell it? And it's a step-by-step program that resulted from us just helping people through this process so much over and over and over. Initially, it was what we went through, going from we had this audience in healthcare digital marketing for 6 months that we didn't know what to do with. And then finally people were telling us, like, can you just make a product for us? Can you just put these videos together in a library? We're like, you want to pay for information that we gave you for free? But right, they were saying structure and accountability, and they wanted a clear system. And so we decided, man, if we could do this for ourselves, we gave ourselves permission to start helping other healthcare providers with this. And over the past year and a half, as we just kept seeing, there's this pattern of somebody grows an audience, we put out an offer in this way, they create a course in this way, they talk about it, they launch it in this way. It just kept working. And so we kept getting to the point where it's like, man, we see these people coming to us, very well-known names in the PT world, that's just like, holy cow, we have this magic formula that just keeps working and working and working. How can we put this into a step-by-step process that can work for people? That's what Launch Code is.
Is it a course? Is it a coaching program? Is it a mix of the two?
It's really I guess it's a mix of the two is what you'd call it. Every single week, in fact, Will's about to jump on the call right now. Every single week we get on live with our people and do deep dives, do Q&A as they're going through this process. So it's weekly coaching in a group format with a course that supports it, I guess is how I'd like to think of it.
That's coaching through a Facebook group or through the platform?
Through a Facebook group. So I would view it very much like a university class, right? You get your materials, the book, the worksheets, the programs, right? And then every week you go to your 2-hour class where you tune in, you can ask questions. We all signed up for that for $150,000 to do that for PT school, which was, hey, here's all the books and show up and we'll do some lectures and pay for this massive group coaching program. So that's what we do on a minute scale of the cost and how to actually start a business with it in an online capacity.
Right. Okay. So the right person for that program is somebody that wants to start on. Is it online or is it also for offline brick and mortar business?
It's for online. So the ideal person for the program would be someone who already has a successful in-person business or has a online business that they've grown, I don't know, made their first $1,000 online, would absolutely crush it going through Launch Code. It would absolutely rock it. We also, it does fit for people who are just starting out trying to figure it out. But the ideal person is someone who's like, hey, I've been dabbling with this. I've made like my first $1,000 online. I don't know how to like really do anything with this. You'd be ideal for this. Or if you've had a successful offline business and you understand what it takes to run a business, you'd be an ideal fit as well.
That's awesome. You guys have been amazing. I think with your permission, I'm going to call this episode Zen Wisdom of the Marketing Masters, because honestly, that's what it's felt like up to this point. But that sounds about right. So Alex and Will, thank you so much for being on the Physio Mission podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you and all that you're doing, putting this out for people. Like, I just have to say, y'all, as you're listening to Jared, this man is brilliant. The first time I sat down with you, man, and you broke down how you create frameworks for everything that you do. Like, I want your brain so bad. Y'all keep listening to this stuff, because as Jared lays this out, there's just so much knowledge in your brain, man. You have such a gift. Like, really, Jared, you have such a gift to be able to take the knowledge that's in your head and get it into a learnable format for people. The world needs your brain so much. I'm so glad that you're doing this, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Talk soon.